How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart all the day? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Enlighten my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death, and my enemy will say, I have overcome him, and my adversaries will rejoice when I am shaken. Psalm 13, 1 through 4. Some of you feel this way tonight. Some of you are in a season of waiting. Some of you are in a season of disarray, of confusion, of doubt, of pain. And you're asking the question, how long, Lord? How long? You know, when I go through my Psalms, I realize that we don't often talk to the Lord the way that the psalmist did. The psalmist was very emotional with the Father. And I know it's out of a sense of reverence. We don't want to be disrespectful to God. We don't want to be in some sort of way abusive or abrasive in our tones. We don't want to be a smart aleck. We don't want to be aggressive toward the Lord. But do we ask questions like this? How long? How long, Lord? How long does this have to continue to go on? Why do I feel as though you're 1,000 miles away? Why did you let this happen? Why are you letting this continue to happen? Why do I feel this burden every day? I mean, look at David, what he has to say. I tell you what, go to Psalm chapter 6. Look at a few here. Psalm 6, verse 1. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger. Don't chasten me in your wrath. Be gracious to me, O Lord, for I'm pining away. Heal me, for my bones are dismayed. My soul is greatly dismayed. But you, O Lord, how long? Return, O Lord. Rescue my soul. Save me because of your loving kindness, for there is no mention of you in death. And Sheol, who will give you thanks? I am weary with my sighing. Every night I make my bed swim. I dissolve my couch. How? With my tears. My eye has wasted away with grief. Have you ever cried so much that your eyes were just heavy and exhausted? Yes. Yes. How many times have we stood in the middle of the day and for no apparent reason at all, we smell something, we feel something, we touch something, and immediately a rush of emotion comes over us and grief just takes a hold. And we break down in tears. And we sob and we sob and we sob. And we feel completely alone. You know, when I sit down with people at Piedmont Road, there's something that I say and that after I listen to them and after they ask me of counsel, I'll say, let me remind you that the wind cannot always blow. But some in this room, just like there are at Piedmont Road, the wind has been blowing for decades. They're in pain still. There's not been some sort of remedy. And until Jesus comes back or they breathe their last, there won't be relief in their mind for this emotional toll that they're in and under. They're consumed. You know, it does us no good, Christian. It does us no good. In fact, it actually does us harm, and it does the brethren harm, and it does the lost harm. When we act as though that we always have it together. When we always act like that everything's always okay and there's no trouble, there's no struggle, we've never suffered in any kind of way. When we put ourselves above the rest of the world who struggles on a daily basis. My son and I had 2 New Yorkers pizza up just north of here or west of here. And I have no doubt that those people behind the counters are going through things, multiple divorces, multiple marriages. Some have been affiliated with drugs and abuse and molestation. That's everywhere. It happens everywhere, doesn't it? There's people in this building who've suffered these things. And you have to live with that. And we feel as though we can't share that with anybody. We feel as though that we'll just put up a guard and a wall and we'll pretend like everything's okay. And we don't talk to the Lord like this because everything's just fine in our life. No, that's a lie. And that's a facade. See, people are hurting. People were hurting in Jesus' day just like they are in our day. And what did Jesus do? He went to them. He saw them in their grief, and He lifted them out of it. We as human beings, we go through things, do we not? Yes. Do we not suffer loss? Yes. Do our bodies not wilter and fade like the flower? Yes, it does. And you know what we need when we go through those things? Each other. We need the Lord. We certainly don't need an attitude as though everything is fine and we're just going to smother this and act numb toward our grief as though it's not there. Or some of us will recluse in our grief. We'll pull away from people in our grief. What do you do? What do you do? This is a universal problem. Every single person has had to deal with this in some form or another. What do you do with your grief? What do you do with your struggles? What do you do with the sin that has broken you? Well, as we noted earlier, blessed are those who wait in the Lord. Some of you are waiting and you've been waiting on the Lord, but you need to know that the fruit still bears by hanging on to the branch, does it not? There is fruit being produced in us in our seasons of waiting, where we may feel alone. How long are you going to forget me? When are you going to answer me? How long does my bed have to be just drenched with tears, Lord? You think He doesn't see? You go back to Jesus when he was in that boat and the sea was going crazy, the tempest was wild and the disciples were fearful, and Jesus was asleep at the head of the boat, and they screamed to Him over the roar, Lord, don't you care that we perish? We're going to die if you don't get up and do something. Why are you asleep? Well, because He told them before they got in the boat, let's go over yonder. So whenever the Lord said, let's go over there, that's what He meant. That's where He was headed despite the storm that they were going to go through. Of course He cares. Of course He knows. Do we talk to Him about our situation as much as we talk to other people about our situation? Well, I'm not a complainer. Well, what do you think the psalmist was doing? You see, he knew who he was talking to. He knew that the one that he was reaching out for and crying to could fix this for him. Do we realize that? Sometimes our struggles are our own fault, aren't they? Sometimes it's just because we've been born into this world and it's just the nature of man. It's the nature of the world, and decay has set in. Romans chapter 8 says that we were subjected to this futility. Okay, this isn't heaven. This isn't heaven, and nor was it ever intended to be. This was the earth. God knew beforehand that His Son would come and die for the world and take them to a place that was not here. A heaven, a rest. And that's what we're looking for, isn't it? We're looking for that. People in this world, whether they know Jesus or not, they're looking for rest, aren't they? And in the psychology world, when a person is addicted to chaos, there's something wrong with that person. When a person doesn't know peace unless there's chaos, there's some misfiring going on, and they need some clinical help. But for the most part, most of us, we don't like chaos. We like structure and order. Go home and whether we lock the deadbolt or not, we don't have to worry about it. Y'all remember that years ago for your silver threads in this room? Okay, the door was open, unlocked, windows were up, screen door unlatched. Maybe it was latched. Didn't matter one way or the other. Old case knife would open that up, wouldn't it? Well, we don't live in that world, do we? Now we have to have ADT and deadbolts and ring cameras and all this sort of stuff. Why? What are we worried about? Well, we know what we're worried about. Isaiah 64, we're going to draw a couple of things from this text, and Isaiah 46, a few things from that text as we've looked at that verse. And that term, blessed are those who wait in the Lord, is something as this whole summer has pointed out to us, the lesser known of the Beatitudes. The word blessed just means spiritually content, spiritually happy, that there's something of God that is in your life that will sustain you through whatever the trial may be. Blessed. Blessed are those. Blessed are those who wait. Well, we all wait. So there's a modifier. There's specifics. No. Wait in the Lord. Everybody has to wait on test results. Everybody has to wait on pathology. Everybody has to wait on diagnosis. Everybody has to wait on CPR. We all get that. But this blessed is specific. It's designed. It's targeted for me in my seasons of Psalm 13 and Psalm 6. Blessed are those, Jake Sutton, who wait in the Lord. Isaiah 64 verse 1. Oh, what a statement. Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down. What's Isaiah saying to a people who continued to rebuke him, who continued to turn away from God, who continued to walk away from His paths, and they're all feeling the pain of this sin. And notice what he says. He says, oh, that you would rend the heavens. What's rend mean? Just tear like a garment. Lord, just bust heaven wide open and come down here. That's what he's asking him. You ever said that to the Lord? You ever spoke to the Father that way? Would you please show up? Please do something. Please intervene. Don't you care that we're dying? Would you rend the heavens and come down? What's that saying? He feels distant from Him. As though as far as east is from the west, would you please come down here? That the mountains might quake at your presence. Look at the passion and the power in this. He says, at your presence. Verse 2, as fire kindles the brushwood, as fire causes the water to boil. Look, the term's effective. We need you to come down and do something in a way that changes things altogether. Effective, to make your name known to your adversaries. What's that mean? The upper hand. That nations may tremble at your presence. When you did awesome things which we did not expect, notice how he connects verse 1 and verse 3. You came down then. You're known for this. This is the God who you are. And He's saying, I'm asking you to do this again. Please come down again. You came down the mountains, quaked at your presence from days of old. They have not heard or perceived by ear. Notice this, nor has the eye seen a God besides you. That's unique, isn't it? This world today still continues to see gods all over this world. All types of forms of idolatry that if you'll trust in this, you'll be saved. We say, well, that not in 2024. Our coin's saying, God we trust. No, but see, we trust in that coin more than the God on that coin that we talk about. We'll trust in making sure that the 401k the Roth 401k, because we want to get our taxes beforehand so we got more afterwards, because we trust in that. Or as long as the Blue Cross Blue Shield policy and the deductible and this and the that is all squared away, and we've got our pension set up and we've got our retirement set up and all these little gods in our life. And if you trust in those things, my prayer is that God would smite those things down and cause you to trust in Him. Paul himself said this to Timothy in the second epistle. He said, we despaired of life itself. We thought we were going to die. But he said the Lord did this so that we would trust in Him, the giver of life, and not in ourselves. For those of us who do trust in false gods, who do, whether that be the form of a person, a partner, a child, a business, my job, whatever it is, if we trust more in those things, we find out real quickly how frivolous our life is. Because if we go to work tomorrow and we fall over dead at work tomorrow, rest assured there's going to be a job posting the next day. They'll replace you. Why do we pine after things like that as though that's what keeps us, that's what stays us? And we push it into our children's minds early on that you got to get a good grade and you got to get a good college and you got to get a good score and you got to get a good job and you got to. How about we have to have God? Where is that in our children's development? And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but you know people who aren't here tonight who need to hear this. Some trust in horses, others trust in chariots, but we will trust in the Lord our God. That's Old Testament language that needs to be in my mouth. This here, he says, no eye has seen a God besides you, who acts, notice, who acts, verse 4, who acts in behalf of the one who what? Waits for him. Notice that conditional statement. He acts for the one who waits, not impatiently, not with a sense of anger towards God, but the one who waits in the Lord. See, Christian, you know that God sees. And you know that God knows. Hey, He's omnipresent, He's omniscient, He's all these sorts. Yeah, He is. Okay, so why do we act sometimes like He's not? And here's how this shows up. Sometimes we'll be led in prayer and the person will lead us and I've heard this, and I'm sure you have too, or we'll say this in our own personal prayers. Lord, just be with us. Lord, just be with us. Lord, just be with us. Just be with us. Just be with us. As though we're trying to convince Him to do something that He's already promised that He would. I will never leave you nor forsake you. He said it. It's over. The fight for God's presence is over. So why do we feel distant? Why do we all have seasons where we feel as though we just wished He would come down? We know He's here. Why do we talk like that? Because our emotions get the best of us. They do. We are emotional creatures, women more so. You operate with the back side of the brain, men with the front side, for the most part. That's the way God's made us. For some in this room, you have give up the fight in waiting on God. You no longer fight Him. You no longer talk like the psalmist. You have just simply stepped away from that fight, and you are totally and enjoy resting in Him, no matter what happens. No matter what happens, it was in the Lord's will. He wanted this to happen, or He has allowed this to happen, or Satan has done this and God's going to work through this. God's going to do wonderful things. I'm at a point in my 38 years of life that I look at people and they tell me something horrible, and after they talk and then ask of me what I think, I'll say, boy, howdy. I can't wait to see what the Lord's going to do in this. Why? Because you live in the clouds? No. I was a police officer. I've lived in suffering. I was on SWAT. I know what death and sin looks like on a regular basis. It'll keep you up at night. It'll cause you to be fearful of everything. So I know what that world's like. And what's the Lord calling us to? A walk where we wait in Him. Yes, I know. Yes, I see. Yes, it's bad. Yes, I know you're hurting. But wait. You know, the Lord answers all of our prayers, doesn't He? He does. If you're a New Testament Christian, you're walking faithful in Jesus, you know He answers every one of your prayers. Yes, no, or not right now. It's really that easy. Yes. No. Not right now. You're His child. See, some of you had bad parents. Some of you had a bad father or a bad mother, or you may not even know who they were. You may not even know who your biological folks were, and you struggle with the fear of abandonment and the fear of being not wanted and thrown away by so many people in this world, but not so with the Lord. How do you know? Because Jesus died for you. God has loved you in this way, and that while you were still dead in your sin, Jesus Christ died for you. What does that say of your worth and value, that God wants you? He's not going to throw you away. He's not going to abandon you. Okay, then why does He let this go on? Jake, your life is, in your eyes, of supreme importance. And your physical well-being is of supreme importance. And making sure that you're able to tuck your child in bed every night is of supreme importance. But how does that fit into the overarching providential sovereign will of God, Jake, for your life and for this child's? No eye has seen a God besides you who acts in behalf of those who waits for Him. Verse 5 says, you meet Him who rejoices in doing righteousness. You meet Him who remembers you in your ways. Behold, you were angry before we sinned. We continued in them a long time. And shall we be saved? Aren't you thankful that Jesus doesn't give up on you? Aren't you thankful? Even in the Old Testament, Exodus 34, the Lord said, am I not a gracious God? Am I not forgiving generation upon generation? Do I not want mercies for your children and your children and your children's children? All them that are afar? Yeah, He does. Go to Isaiah 46. He brings up the two gods that they've trusted in. In verse 1 of Isaiah 46, it says, Baal has bowed down. Nebo stoops over. Their images are consigned to the beasts and the cattle. I mean, they're fashioned this way. The things that you carry, notice that. These things, these idols that you carry, we gotta make them, and then we have to lift them up. He says, these things that you carry, what are they? They're burdensome. A load for the weary beast. They stooped over. They have bowed down together. They could not rescue the burden, but have themselves gone into captivity. The things that they trusted in, the truth was found out. Let me ask you, in your waiting, are you trusting in something else other than the Lord to deliver you, or we're just waiting on that check to come in? Lord, it's been 3 days. Why has it been 3 days, Lord? Some in this room, they don't have this problem. But some of us others, we do. We tire and we wrestle with these false gods that we've made. My life is supposed to look like this. We're supposed to have this. Everything's supposed to be this way. And we're mad at the Lord. See, some of us are mad at God for promises that He never made. Lord, I live in America. I'm supposed to have a good job and a pension and 35 years at a location and the wife and children and the collie dog and the white picket fence. And if we don't have that, then what's wrong with you? When did He ever promise us those things? What kind of prosperity gospel, Jake Sutton, have you been preaching to people if that's what they believe? You think God's left you because your normal is no longer normal? What gods have we trusted in, and we look up and we think, we've been by ourselves this whole time? Because we trusted in these things to be some sort of salvation for us. He says, verse 3, listen to me. Listen, O house of Jacob, and all the remnant of the house of Israel. You who have been, notice this, born by me from birth. You notice this? Those false gods were things that they had to make and they had to carry around. I often think about this like in a travel ball. You see these parents, they pay all this high dollar money to put their kid in some place to throw their arm out sooner than later. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You only got so many throws and then it's done, and we got to get Tommy Johns, but then we might get 3 or 4 more miles an hour on that fastball. You know what I mean? So we're investing in our children. But you see these travel ball parents, and they'll go and they'll put all this money into this right here. And all year round their children knows this is God. And this is what life is. And it's ball and only ball. And it's we're going to pay for these $400 or $500 bats and these cleats. And we got to have the uniform. And you got to look at the park. We got to make sure we're at the park about an hour and a half early, because you got to get warm, Junior or Sally. And we got to do this and we got to do that. And you see these folks, and they'll put up these tents at these fields, right? And they'll be out there all day long. And you see them the next day, and they're just roasted. They look like lobsters. You think, great day. You remember what it was like when we just threw the ball up in the air and hit it in the yard? And if you made it, you made it. How burdensome. And it's easy for us to pick on something like that, but those folks could just as easily pick on something in my life. Look how he has to carry that thing around. Look, his desire is set on this, and he carries this thing around, and it wears him down. Why don't he just stop worshiping that and worship the God who gives him breath itself? Why does he tax himself with all this stuff? Why do we? Why do things have to be a certain way in our life for us to be okay with God? If we ever find ourselves alone, Christian, emotionally alone, spiritually alone, we need to ask ourselves the question, who moved? Who moved? Because my Bible says that God, who cannot lie, that He is the epitome of truth. That's all that He is. Everything that is good and right and just and lovely and pure and truth in this world, that's who He is. And so He cannot lie. So if I feel or I look up and there's nobody else around, who moved? I did. I did. And so He's reminding me, stay right here. Stay right here. I know of one particular fellow who his wife was running around on him. And he goes to an elder of the church's house. He drives to his house and he's just hot. He's hot. He's hot. And he's about to lose his cool. He's shaking. He's shaking. And this particular fellow grew up in a place and time where it was okay to get a little rowdy every now and then. That if we shoot the gun in the air, then that's going to ward off all the folks that we don't want around us. And that's just kind of this person's temperament. And this fellow who found out about his wife drove to this elder's house, and he gets there, and he says he's just violently crying. And he don't know what to do. And that elder just says, just be still. Just be still. Just be still. Be still. The Lord will fight. The Lord will fight for you. Ain't that what He told Moses? Moses told the people, you just only got to be still. Just stand right here and watch Him do what He's going to do. Just wait. Just wait. You think about this. You think about people in your life that you trust the most. That you trust the most. And if they ask you to do something one way or the other, and they're asking you, would you please do it this way? And this is exactly how I need you to do this. And if you love me, this is how I want you to do. We wouldn't balk at that. Then why do we get that way with the Lord? That's because we love our stuff more than we love Him. And we got found out. And our false god was struck down. And now we're clamoring, we're grasping at things. Listen to me. He says, you had to bear these things. You had to make these things. But He says in verse 3, you have been born by me from birth and have been, notice, though you had to carry those false gods around, He says, and have been carried from the womb, even to your old age, I will be the same. And even to your graying years, I will bear you. I have done it, and I will carry you, and I will bear you, and I will deliver you. Can we just not be still? And know that from the beginning of our life to the very end, as His children, we've been carried through it. You say, well, Jake, that's Old Testament language for New Testament Israel. I 100% agree. Absolutely. That's true. And Israel, they were His people that He used in that way, and that's specific to them. That's absolutely true. What about in my Bible, though, when James says that He will save your soul from death, or that He will uphold you, or that His grace is sufficient for you? He says in verse 5, to whom would you liken me and make me equal and compare me, that we would be alike? You know what we often want? We want the Lord to fix our problems the way that other folks would probably fix our problems for us. And we'll treat Him as some father in the sky that we go to and say, now, Lord, this is what I need. You know my problem, and this is how I want it to be done. Has the Lord ever been traditional in that way? Has He ever saved in a traditional fashion? No. What does He do? He takes the weak and the small and the frail, the ones that are absolutely have no chance and no shot of success, and in those people, He magnifies Himself and saves those folk through the process. Lord, would you please fix my problem the way that I want it to be fixed? He doesn't always save me my way. And He never promised me that. Sometimes we're just so fixed and focused on our problem, and this is what's going to make me happy. No. Happiness is like a roller coaster. I could be upset today and get a phone call tonight that email that I responded to in 2009 about that prince over in Africa who had all that money and he wanted me to have it, he died, and I got a phone call and my check's on the way, baby. Bye. I got his money now. See how happiness just immediately comes flowing in, no matter what's going on? Happiness is fickle. Happiness is frail. I want something that's eternal, that's everlasting, that's God-given, that's contentment, confidence, that will never go nowhere. And He offers it. He offers it. Jake, do you trust me? Yes. But Lord, oh, do you trust me? Yes. It may be better and more open for us to say, Lord, I don't trust you, and I need help with that, than for us to lie and act like that we do trust Him and then tell ourselves and the world that we'll pray like it's all up to the Lord and then work like it's all up to us and run around in a frantic. Whatever it is, we probably should just say, Lord, I don't trust you, and I'm tired of lying about it, and I need help. I want to trust you. Help me do this. I struggle with this. All I have ever known in my physical life are people to do me wrong, and I'm cynical, and I have a hard time trusting people. Can you help me with that? Don't you know the benevolent Father, when He hears your heart, will answer that? Don't you trust Him that He'll put people in your life to build up your confidence, to build up the trust, to build you up to where you need to be? Yeah. Don't you, when you ask of Him and you're faithful to Him and you ask of Him, Lord, in your will, please help me in this, because I don't know what it looks like. And I'm tired of waiting. And in fact, I haven't been waiting at all. I've been fighting, and I've been fighting you about it and everybody else. Verse 6, those who lavish gold from the purse, weigh silver on the scale, hire a goldsmith, he makes it into a god. They bow down. They worship it. They lift it up on their shoulder and carry it. They set it in its place, and it stands there. It does not move from its place. Though one may cry to it, it cannot answer. It cannot deliver him from his distress. Remember this and be assured. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things long past, for I am God, and there is no other. There is no other. I am God, and there is no one like me. Verse 10, declaring. Notice that statement. Declaring, not suggesting, not just a hint or a nudge, but boldly in declaration, he says. The end from the beginning, from ancient times, things which have not been done, saying, my purpose will be established. Notice that. In my waiting, God's purpose is at the helm. God's plan is at the helm. There's a message in the mess. He says, my purpose will be established. I will accomplish all my good pleasure, calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my purpose from a far country. Truly I have spoken. Truly I will bring it to pass. I have planned it. Surely I will do it. Jake, that's Old Testament. It's true. But Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 11, God, to the New Testament church, Paul wrote, works all things according to His purpose. In Romans 8:28, God causes all things together, all things, not just the good things. He causes all things that work to work together for two purposes, for two reasons, for my good and His glory. That may be discipline. That may be a chastening moment that He providentially and sovereignly, which means He reigns over the situation. Much like a parent who comes into a child and says, no, no more, we're not going any further. This ends now, and it will end in discipline if it must, but it stops here and now. Jehovah God can do the same thing to me or to you. No, it stops, and it stops now. And I will end it. And in His sovereignty, for the good of His children, He comes rushing in, sometimes in those ways. Think about this. You think about our suffering. You think about the things that we really do have to endure. Think about a horrible diagnosis or somebody that gets cancer and fights this for years. You notice how sometimes our prayers will change in that. Lord, please heal them. 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 And then after so long, and so long they tarry with this cancer and the radiation and the treatments, and their body's frail, and they get sick at every turn of the hat. They're just down. They're down. They're down. And then our prayers become, Lord, please take them. Lord, please take them. Lord, please take them. Imagine if the Lord answered our prayers on the whim that we pray it. And I'm not knocking praying for healing. I'm not knocking praying that the Lord take those people out of this situation. Because we have not, because we ask not. And He tells us to ask in faith, doesn't He? The Lord had His disciples on one occasion, and they said, Lord, teach us to pray. Come here. When you pray like this. Our Father. That ought to feel good to you when you can look at the one who upholds all things and the one who causes everything to continue as it is and the one who even on the molecular level is upholding all things to say, my Father. That ought to do something for us. Our Father, where is He? He's in heaven. He's not here, He's there. And He's wanting me to come to Him. He sits high above and enthroned all things. And He says, holy is your name. Not Jake's name, not Jake's agenda, not Jake's plan, not Jake's president, not anything else that I have in my life that I think this has to be this way or all has failed. No. Holy is His name. His kingdom come. His will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Before we ever ask Him to, Lord, give us our daily bread, we need to address Him as He is and where He is and why He is. And see Him as that. And say, Lord, everything that I'm fixing to ask, let this be in your will. Or as the brother said earlier, let our will be in accordance with yours. Because see, when it's not, we get mad at Him. I need you to do it my way. I need you to fix this, and I'm tired of waiting on it. As some disgruntled customer at Starbucks. And he's just the barista in the sky, stoop and bow at our beck and whim. I'm thankful that He sees me through my childish ways in that way. I'm thankful that He sees me through those times where I'm not trying to be rash or harsh. I'm emotional and I'm sad and I'm broken and I need Him. And I'm thankful He sees that. As we close, I want you to go to the 2 Corinthians letter and go to chapter 12 and look at verse 7. This is about as on the nose as it gets when it comes to waiting in the Lord. What do we do? Well, the first thing we need to do is pray. When we're waiting, we need to pray. We need to talk to the Lord more than we talk to so-and-so about it. Why do we tell some things to some people knowing that they can't fix it? And we'll complain. There's a difference in having a confidant and receiving counsel or being in grief and just needing to repress something. But then there's some folks and all they do is focus on the negative in life. Lord says, don't do that. Look on the things that are pure, lovely, just. Focus on these things, and the God of peace will be with you. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, Paul says, because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, verse 7, for this reason, Paul got all kinds of looks, glances. Verses 1 through 6, Paul says, I don't know if I was in the body or if it was a dream, but the Lord showed me heaven. And He continues to do all these things for me in my life. And he says, but for this reason, to keep me from becoming what? Conceited, your version may say, but the word is exalting myself. Oh, I'm someone. God has blessed me. God surely has deemed me as His favorite. He says, to keep me from boasting in myself, to keep me from becoming conceited, to keep me from exalting myself, something happened. There was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to torment me. Why? To keep me from exalting myself. You know who gave him that? Oh, it was the devil. No. The devil's not interested in keeping Jake Sutton humble, nor the Apostle Paul. Was it a messenger of Satan? Oh, absolutely. But did the Lord use it for His good? Mm-hmm. Just like He did Judas. To accomplish His greater will, He let Paul. He gave Paul this through this messenger of Satan, the hand of the serpent, to humble him. My physical life doesn't mean to God. My physical well-being, my bank account, my relationship with my child doesn't mean to God like I think it means. God will work over and through and with and alongside my life and yours, brethren, for His greater good to happen. He says, concerning this, I implored the Lord 3 times that it might leave me. And He said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast about my weakness, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Because if it's not the power of Christ, then it's the power of Paul. What does that mean, 5 minutes? Or is the show over? Is that 5 minutes? 5 minutes? He says, therefore, I'm well content. Why? Because this kept Paul level-footed. This kept Paul right where he needed to be. Where? In prayer. When was the last time, Jake, that you went home and you got on your knees and you talked to your Lord? Well, I can tell you when. It's when I was hurting the worst. Then you were there for wronger reasons, wronger motives. See, we need to be there all the time, don't we? What happens is we get caught up in our safety nets and our cell service and our insurance policies to really save the day. The psalmist said, unless the Lord saves the city, those who stay awake all night stayed awake in vain. Does God expect us to pray? Sure does. He's told us to. It's there by example. It's there in command. It's there in the benefit of me and for you. It's there. But then there's times where He wants me to wait and be still. He knows. He knows. And He's asking you to trust Him in this. And you're blessed because of that. You know, it's almost like the child who doesn't learn the lesson the first time. You think about this. We do this with our children, don't we? Or it was done to us. That a child didn't learn the lesson. And here we are back again in the same situation, in the same mess. Well, it's time for you to learn your lesson. And if the child learns the lesson, they move on. They graduate to other lessons. But if not, then we'll just stay right here until we learn this lesson. Some of us need to learn the lessons to trust in God. And we need to be honest with Him. Lord, I don't trust You. I don't. I want to. I'm here on a Wednesday night. My life looks good, but it ain't. And inside there's turmoil and anxiousness. And I got to have this and I got to have that. And if my life doesn't look this way, then I'm not okay. Well, you don't trust in Him. But it don't have to be that way. I want to hear, well done, don't you? Some of us in this room are at a point in our life where we're just ready for Him to come on. We don't ask anything else anymore. We just ask for Him to come on. Lord, please come back. Send Jesus. Because Paul says to comfort one another on the day Jesus comes back. Some of you are tired and you're waiting. Don't let go. And don't give up. And don't quit. He knows. And He's watching. And He sees. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. We ask you to come as together we stand and sing this song.